said, turn it off. Okay. Well, anyhow, I'm Charley Kempthorne. I'm an old Manhattan kid. This is my wife, June Fritz Kempthorne. She's an old Clay Center gal, but she's been in Aggieville, I stole her out of Aggieville, and when I came back here in 73, something like that. Anyhow, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have to move right along. I've got a lot to ask you to do. You're a group of genealogists or genies. I love to talk to genies, and what is delightful is that more and more, we've been doing, I started the first reminiscence writing workshop in 1976 here in Manhattan, Kansas, and with Jessie Fovo, whom some of you may know. We may talk a little bit about her, but usually I didn't talk to genies. Now and then I'd be lucky enough to get a few in a regular group for writing family history. And now we're getting more and more. On this tour or trip, whatever you want to call it, we've talked to genealogists in Klamath Falls. No, I guess that was another trip in Siskiyou County in Wairika, California. Talked to them, and then we did the genies in Lincoln Lancaster Genealogical Society the other day with Judy Cook, and now we're here in Manhattan doing this, and I've never talked to this group before, maybe never will again. I hope I will, but I hope you'll like what we do today. One thing that's different, I was talking to Barry, your president, about this before, and he's showing me he's done this and this and this with his ancestors, and that's great. I mean, if you guys don't do it, nobody's going to do it, so it's got to be done. But in your head is your whole history, and it includes your ancestors, a lot of stuff of which, if I'm getting that right, you have not written down, but stuff about your own life you have not written down. And so we're going to focus on that today, but the techniques and skills of narrative writing that you probably already know, but I'm going to say you'll learn here today, you can apply to the elders as well as to your own life. But I mentioned you already know. Actually, you already know almost everything that June and I are going to say. But I run into groups, I run into people. I've been doing this since 1976, I may have said already. And it's sad occasionally, and less, people are writing more and more. They're running into people who say, well, I haven't done any writing yet, but I'm doing research, or even worse, I'm thinking about it. Thinking about thinking, and thinking I've come to hate thinking because it usually means no writing. You think you're here maybe to improve your writing skills. The only skill I'm going to help you improve is the regularity with which you do it. Because what I found, I don't want to get too early, where are those books, June, into hawking books, but this book I wrote 20 years ago, and it's done well. It's 12,000 copies in print, still out there. But it's a book about how to write. How to write. And what I discovered after I wrote this book, and before I wrote this book, this book, was that people already know how to write. You're 30 people, 25 or 30 people, and you know very good and well how to write. You've been writing all your life. You've been talking all your life. I say, write like you talk. You know, your kids don't want you to sound like some English professor. You're writing for your children and grandchildren. They want you to sound like mom and dad. So you already know how to do that. Yes, ma'am. Jill?
Well, I'm going to ask you a question now, otherwise I'll forget it. I took a class at Fort Riley, and I wrote a story, and I said, until the cows come home, because that's how I was speaking. And the professor said, no, you can't do that. And I said, why not? And he says, well, you're writing in your vernacular, and not everybody knows that.
Well,
and
let's hope he was taken out and shot.
Well, that's what I thought, and because I
thought
that's
a joke.
Everybody knew the term until the cows come home.
Yeah.
And but of course at Fort Riley you had people from all over the country.
Right.
And so I never understood that, because you know when I speak, you talk about the creek and things like that.
What?
The creek, going down to the creek.
What's a creek?
Yeah.
Everybody knows. Well, I know, and you've got a lot of questions.
And so that when you say that, writing like you speak, Do we do that? Because I
Yeah,
say until
we
the
will.
cows come home all the time.
That will come up again and again, Jill, and so definitely I will make it clear that I think you should write the way you talk.
Okay.
Your own vernacular, and that gentleman, hopefully he's gone on to his reward and was properly instructed up there in what he did wrong. Sent down there. Anyhow, I'm just kidding, of course. But you come here thinking you need to learn how to write, or you need to learn how to write in some formal way. I'm not talking about papers for the Heritage Quest or some organization like that. I'm talking about for what you publish, maybe in Facebook. Great place. I've been putting up thousands of words in Facebook these last 6 months, and they haven't objected yet. Phyllis Marr up here even reads it and says, "Good going, Charlie. You have."
Yep.
And so I do that, and I suggest that you do that. And so you don't really need to come here to write. Learn how to write. You need to learn how to do it regularly. That's what I found in this book, and try to promote in narrative journaling. The second book is write regularly. Journal if possible. Write every day. I've been writing, some of you saw this article in the Merc, it was in the Wall Street Journal, reprinted in the Merc. I've written 10 million words in 50 years of journaling. And of course 3 million are worthless, 3 million is superfluous, but 3 million, that's a lot of words, are about my family. And the kids growing up and my ancestors I'm not really a genie yet, that comes in my octogenarian era, I think. But I've written a lot about my family, and I got it done by making it a habit, not by thinking about it. And you genies are industrious people, so I'm not really talking about you folks. I'm talking about the many folks who go to workshops in writing family history, and with the best of intentions, think about it. So, you know how to write. Another reason people will give, this is a course, a 2-hour course, 3-hour course in breaking writer's block. William Stafford, great Kansas writer, probably one of the most important poets of the 20th century from Hutchinson, Stafford County. William Stafford was asked about what he does when he can't write. He said, "I just lower my standards and keep on writing." Perfect answer, because the important thing is to keep on writing. So we work on that. But people will say, "Well, I don't know how to put the parentheses. Do I put the quotation marks outside the parentheses?" And they'll wring their hands about they don't know whether to use effect or affect or influence or affluence or something. And that's just junk, really. And I'm a recovering English teacher. I taught 5 or 6, 7 years in various small colleges up north in Wisconsin. Taught at K-State even one semester. So I'm a guy who's recovering from that business. Of what I discovered I was doing was I was teaching people how to write so well they hated it and never wrote again. And of course there are exceptions to that, but in general that's been true. You ask the average person on the street, would you rather be stabbed with a knife right now, or would you write an essay? And they would say, "Stab me, please, quickly."
That's why my husband dropped out of college. He couldn't pass English.
That's right, it happens. So there are other reasons why people won't write, and one is, I can't remember anything. Another is, I can't remember anything anyway. And the very first thing we're going to do, the next thing we're going to do, is a tool to stimulate your memory. And there are lots of such tools. And the more you remember, the more you remember, usually. Or they'll say, "I don't have anything to say." What do I know? Well, you know your own life. And you are the only one who really knows your own life. And your own life is part of your ancestors' life, too. So, and there are other reasons people will give in order to avoid writing. But I hope we can get around some of those. And one thing, this is fun. We always start workshops with this. It's a drawing that June made, my wife, made of her girlhood home farm home in Clay Center, Kansas. Wherever you're from, maybe you're a military brat and moved around a lot, or maybe you lived in the same house as June did for all your youth. Doesn't matter. Draw one of those floor plans, just the floor plan. Even if it was a 6-story home, just draw the main floor. And then as you're drawing, and you can do it sloppily. June's very neat. She was an art major right over here at K-State. I'm kind of a slob, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is to get the drawing down, draw in the rooms, draw the chairs, draw where the cat sat, whatever you like. But as you draw, you're going to have memories come to your mind of things such as June wrote, I would wake up to Edmund Denny on the radio. How many of you remember old Ed saying, "You are my sunshine" every morning all of his life? I would wake up to Edmund Denny on the radio and run downstairs, sit on the wood stove, and then she would get dressed, you know, in the winter. That was the only warm place in the house. But she made a note of that could become a story. Or it might just become a detail in another story. She did the yard also, drew her yard because she was outside a lot, farm girl. She mentions her mother's flower beds. Outside she could smell from the kitchen, homemade bread, etc., etc. What I would like you to do now, and you can go ahead and start on this, take a blank sheet of paper.
There is a blank sheet of paper in the back of your folder.
And we have more.
And, yeah.